And I'll be speaking to two people. First up, Pius, who has been here for the last 6 months under treatment for alcohol addiction. Later on, we'll speak to Nee as well. Pius, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And Happy New Year, by the way.
Same to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 6 months for alcohol addiction. Let's take it all the way back to when it started. Can you recollect your first encounter with alcohol and how it made you feel?
My first encounter of alcohol was way back 10 years ago when I was, I think, still in primary.
Still in primary school?
Yeah. Actually, I come from the Upper East region where it is common to find youngsters and the old drinking pito. That's our locally brewed drink. As time goes on, I keep buying it for my mom. But before I get to the house, I have to take a sip. I want to be like, let me try this thing. How does it feel like? How does it taste? And unknowingly, I was just entering a vulture of alcoholism. So time went on, got back to school, and still taking my alcohol occasionally. And in school, we were not allowed. We were not allowed to even possess electronic gadgets, wireless appliances. But we had our own way of getting alcohol into the campus. Now, I'm finishing senior high school. I pursued an HND program in Bogatanga Polytechnic. That is HND Procurement and Logistics Management. And while in school, still kept on drinking. I think this time around, I got on a binge. Because everywhere I was, there was always alcohol. Under my bed, yes, there was alcohol. In my drawers, there was alcohol. So I was fully booked, like a big-time working man.
And, you know, how were you able to get by with studies, especially because you were always under the influence of alcohol? Because I'm beginning to think that half of the time you were boozed on campus.
Well, for me, I don't know how I did it, but I guess it's God. Because you can imagine when it's time for exams, people are going to the library, and I'm just relaxed in my room.
Did you ever find yourself, staggering along campus because you were drunk when everybody else was going for lectures?
No, when it's lectures time, I'm cool.
How many bottles were you able to consume per day or per night?
Per day, a crate and more.
And after you consumed a crate, were you still stable, or it got to you to a point where you couldn't even walk back to your house?
I still get stable.
After you graduated from school, now you had to work. I believe that you got a good job.
Yeah, I got a good job after my national service at Bewa Training College in Pusiga.
And how were you managing? Were you still drinking as much whilst working?
For that, I really must confess, I was always booked up with alcohol wherever I was. In my room, in the office car, and in my office.
Would you say that maybe you were experiencing some psychological challenge or, emotional difficulty? That's why you relied on alcohol to, survive?
That's a good question. This brings everything out because I really wasn't that kind of guy who was into alcohol, but I got so much into it after an emotional trauma, which caused a breakup with myself and my girlfriend.
Okay, so what really happened?
I ran into her in my room, in bed with my own best friend, and this all got me started up. So I had to drink to wash away the pain, but whenever the alcohol gets out of my system and the pain resurfaces, I have to drink more.
Now, I see that you have some scars on your neck. I'm curious. I don't know if it was through alcohol, but can you tell me if really that was the reason why you got this?
I got a scar on the 31st of January 2017 as a result of intoxication. I went out with my friends to drink as usual, and one of them got so off, so I had to ride him to his house. And on my way back, the whole street was clear, so I was on top speed. There was a taxi in front of me, also on top speed, so I maintained my gap. Unknowingly and unexpected, the taxi made a quick turn without giving a signal. Now, I could have gone into the other lane to continue my ride, but on the other lane was a fast-moving trailer. So I was just like, God, do what you can. So I had to go in for the taxi.
Slammed into the taxi?
Yeah, I slammed into the taxi, and the rear mirror kind of shattered and got all this up.
Wow.
And that didn't really deter me, yeah. I was rushed to the hospital by the same driver, stitched up, And I still needed alcohol, even at that moment.
Was this to endure the pain?
Not to endure the pain. I started something that I had to finish.
Wow. How did your family handle you as an alcoholic?
Despite I was an alcoholic, they never let me down. Because my family loved me, kept supporting me, giving me advices, taking me to churches, like for prayers. But all this never worked.
So how did you finally find out that there was a place like this, a rehab center for people like you?
It was my brother, my elder brother, thank him so much. He also had to find his own ways to get his younger brother out, because we're only 2 guys in the family and 3 sisters. So however he got information of this place, I don't know. But he found it. And it's good. I'm enjoying it.
And that's Pius. He's been sober for 6 months. I think that was not captured in the interview, but he was on alcohol for over 10 years, and he couldn't survive without it. We had to edit it because of time, but there were lots of things that he said. I mean, there was a time when he had to be at work, and they couldn't find him because he was gone, and he was always drunk because of a broken heart. Someone would think it's such a trivial issue. I mean, if someone broke your heart, move on and go and find somebody else. How do you rely on alcohol? But this is something that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. Now, as an international, but when it comes to drug addiction and some of these things you listen to, if he had come to me to speak like this, that it was because addiction or alcoholism is a primary disease. The issue that you asked from the very beginning of the interview, he started drinking at 10. You understand? By the time he got a girlfriend, he already knew how to drink. He was not at the stage of addiction to alcohol. That was why he was able to even complete this thing. He may be abusing alcohol at the time. If he became too dependent, well, he may manage to graduate from this thing. But to state categorically that it was because of a girlfriend that jilted him, that was why he took to this thing, no. It's what we call in addiction management sympathy-seeking behavior. The disease was there. Whether it was in the lantern form or not, those are precipitants. You understand? Yeah. It's just like somebody who has lost a job from a company, and he finds himself on the redundancy list. People, managers or employers will not present that list without any listing. When they come out, or when they are paid their severance listing, or they're just sacked, when they come out, they drink. And they want to get people to know that it's because I lost my job. That is why I'm drinking. But actually, it's the other way, that it was because of the drinking. That was why he eventually did. And as a therapist, that is what you must get corrected. Otherwise, the person continues repeating the same thing and seeking excuses on that. That's an alibi. Sympathy-seeking behavior and blame shifting. If you want to recover from addiction, it is the duty of the therapist to get you to be very honest and look at it critically, and then see where you got it wrong, because it's always a cause-effect relationship in life. This was what led to your redundancy, even though in certain cases it might not be that. There are instances, shocker instances, where, but in most cases for alcoholics and persons with drug addiction, when they come and they want to present it, they are not confident enough initially to say that it was because of my drinking. It will even interest you to know that the boyfriend or the girl found something better, like it's not drinking, their friend is not drinking, or his drinking is creating a problem. And if you don't handle it like that, the person will continue drinking, have another girlfriend, and this thing will recur. So we need to be very critical about that. I wanted to even mention, especially in the case of alcohol, what I have studied or what I have observed, this low self-esteem issue had been there over the years, and if it is handled, and like Doctor was mentioning, there are neurotransmitters. There is something we call endorphin. It's also implicated in this. In the level of endorphin in persons with alcoholism is lower than the normal, and there is that sort of a positive correlation. When you take alcohol, the synthetic production of the endorphin, it goes high. It makes you happier, and that's why we enjoy it the most. Now, there is one issue like Doctor spoke about, and my friend is the Narcotics Control Board. I must congratulate Narcotics Control Board. So apart from the supply reduction approach, arresting and prosecution, and then the introduction of other jobs to replace the other, the term he used for it, they are so much involved in demand reduction. And that is why some of us have gotten, it is Narcotics Control Board who has given us the opportunity to study addiction internationally. And they are doing well. But there is a problem that I don't know whether the Ghanaian society would focus their mind on the elderly rather than the youth. Because when we went to Israel, that thing was taught. Listen very carefully. It's how many youth are involved in alcohol trading? How many youth are involved in drugs trading? How many youth? It is the elderly out of greed who, and then eventually the victims that I call a threatened population, the youth, they are suffering.
Okay.
Therefore, we need to start to be honest and say no, because this issue of he asking for the public to collaborate and support for these things, these persons to be weeded out, is losing the battle, because there is a group, an advocacy for the legalization and decriminalization of all these things now. As we are talking about this thing. If people are talking of economic benefits of cannabis, and the Narcotics Control Board is wanting to change cannabis plantation into cassava plantation, and then people come out with a whole lot of these things, you are directly or indirectly asking that it is better we cultivate cannabis sativa rather than cultivating cassava.
That's true. I mean, there have been personalities who have come out and openly said that we want marijuana to be, legalized. And, they had arguments for it about how it's healthy. And again, it makes you very creative and all of that. When they come out and say those things, how does NACOP control this or react to this?
Well, our stand has always been the same. That we are enforcing the PNDC law 236. And that is to control the narcotic drugs. We tend to misunderstand or misapply when it comes to legalization and then decriminalization. Legalization, as being done in other countries, is helping them in some way. But then let's come back to Ghana here. Even in Ghana here, when we make announcements and tell people to clean their environment, or even don't throw a piece of rubber here, and then they do, and then you want to bring in legalization, you think you'll be able to control such a society? We are not there yet.
So what?
We are not there yet because our mindset alone to that argument is not ready yet for that environment.
Okay.
And so we shouldn't even think of that. If we want really to go into that, then we should understand the concept of legalization. You see, when you legalize the drug, as it's been done in other countries, what they do is that they have other facilities that regulate or control the abuse of the drugs.
Yes.
And so if you take a country like Portugal, they have drug control rooms, consumption rooms. They have threshold for the taking of the drugs. And so it is being regulated strictly. And they obey or they go strictly to rules and regulations. Unlike Ghana here, when you tell somebody to do this and be doing the opposite.
Exactly.
And so we shouldn't even bring it into the debate.
Anyway, we'll continue this conversation in a bit. And yesterday on the late afternoon show, we're discussing addiction to drugs and alcohol. You can join us via social media, GH1 TV, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And speaking of Facebook, we're streaming live as well. So just let a friend know so they can watch us on there as well. I have professionals here who will...
He didn't know.
Okay.
Before I got married. So when I got into the marriage, I was doing it. And he got to know. And it was... how do you call it? I became the addiction, so I couldn't stop, and so many things happened.
Like what?
Like, as I said, I depended on the alcohol and the drugs, so I became addicted to sex. And the man I married was a bit older than me, so I think I had to go out there to sort or depend on other men to satisfy myself.
Wow.
Because I was addicted to the sex too. So I couldn't stay at home in my marriage. So I was out there always to
find another man. How did he find out?
I'm always out of home. Every weekend I'm off all over England. I don't give him time. I'm always out there. Even some of the guys I was dating, they were bold to come into my home.
Okay.
They can call on the phone. A whole lot of things.
Were these also people who were reliant on drugs and alcohol?
Yes, they were people that I came into contact with, and we were all doing it together.
Yeah.
So it's like we're all having the pleasure of doing it and enjoying all sort of things together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then he got angry
So it
and what,
affected
divorced?
my marriage.
Yeah.
And he destroyed, like he wrote to the Home Office that our marriage is not subsisting.
Wow.
Yes. So I had to go through a law for 1 year, police reporting at the police station. I took a lawyer to fight my case for another 1 year. A whole lot happened, and I got deported finally.
Did they not try to help you? Instead of deporting you, didn't they realize that you were addicted and probably needed to
on several occasions, he called the police to arrest me. And when I go for the detention, I tried to talk to the lawyer who comes there to help me.
Okay.
But the lawyer didn't understand because, you know, they are English and they always fight for the people.
For themselves,
and
exactly.
I was a black person, and they think, oh, maybe I got married to him because of paper or financial, you know, so they weren't attending to me. It got to a point I even wrote to the Ghana embassy. I did a lot. I was seeking for help. But the people that I talked to, they didn't know the problem I was going, because when I tell them, they don't really understand what I was going through. So I was deeply going into it. I was drowning.
Yeah.
In England, I was seriously off. Every day I can have sex with many men. I can do drugs. Like her, I was
in a day.
In a day, every day I was on drugs, and because, you know, in that I was facing deportation too. So I was depressed.
Okay, so then you relied on it even more.
Thank you very much. What can make me happy is the men, the drugs, and the alcohol.
Did it make you happy at all?
I thought I was being happy, but I was getting more depressed. I was getting more frustrated. So it's like, it's a mixed feeling.
Yeah.
You think you are happy, but at the end of the day, you realize that no, it's not fulfilling. It's not giving you fulfillment. But you still go on because you are addicted to it. So the edge comes. You can't control it, and you keep doing it. Wow. So I kept doing every blessed day. And you know, in England, it's free. Alcohol is cheap.
Yeah.
And the drugs too, they are there. Because the people I was, every day, they have it.
Exactly.
So I'm doing it every day. And everything was going on every blessed day. Got to a time I stopped work, and I was just every day enjoying myself. Every blessed day.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll come back to how you finally, you know, pulled yourself out of it. But we also spoke to Nee, also at St. Francis Rehab Center. And he is the young man I was saying was not only addicted, but eventually started selling. And from what I heard, he was referred to as the drug lord of the city where he was selling at. So take a look at this. I'm here with Nee, still at the House of St. Francis Clinic and Rehab Center, and he is here for treatment for addiction to hard drugs. Nee, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
How are you feeling right now, though?
A little tense.
Really? Relax. This is going to be a very open conversation. Okay. So I'm also going to start with how long it's been since you were addicted to hard drugs.
Wow. 18 years, I guess.
18 years. How old are you now?
28.
So what was the first drug you took?
Cigarettes.
You started with cigarettes.
Alcohol.
Who introduced you?
Me.
You introduced yourself. How?
My dad used to smoke. His brothers used to smoke. So I figured it was a normal thing. So.
What age did you start? If you are 18 now, that means you started when you were 10?
10, 11.
First time you had a cigarette?
Yes.
So at what point did you proceed on to something else?
Maybe like 6, 7 years later, I got weed, and then around 21, 22, I found coke and ecstasy and roofies.
You mentioned that there was alcohol as well. So when you started smoking, was that when you started consuming alcohol too?
Yeah.
And now did it become an open thing for you, or you hid it all the time?
I had to hide it because I figured it won't be safe. Younger than 18, drinking, smoking, it won't be right.
Where were you drinking and smoking? In your room?
In the house, drinking, smoking, anywhere outside.
And your parents didn't notice, they didn't trace anything?
No.
So now you said you started by getting weed as well. By what age? 21?
No. I got weed at like 16, 17.
How did you get that? Were you introduced by a friend, or did you go looking for it?
No. I was introduced by a friend who knew I smoked cigarettes. He thought, you smoke cigarettes, so you might as well try weed. And I said, okay.
And you did. And you got addicted. Was it an immediate addiction?
No.
Okay, it took a while.
It took a while.
So whenever you smoked weed, how were you feeling?
Pretty good.
Was there a reason why you were relying on weed, at that point?
Yeah.
Just the fact that your friend introduced you?
No. Now I've come to understand that I was finding it a little hard to, come to terms with my life at that point. So I was running away with the drugs.
What were the problems in life that made you feel like that?
I kept getting opportunities in life that I felt like my parents were taking away from me at some point in some ways, but I've come to see that they were just trying to keep me from finding drugs too early in life.
Exactly. When you say opportunities, were you interested in music, or you would have wanted to be a musician?
I was at a point. I had my own studio when I was like 18. Yeah.
So was it influence from other people coming into the studio that made you very much addicted to it?
They contributed, but I don't think they are the reason.
So you also tried cocaine for how long?
Like 5-6 years now.
It's illegal. How were you getting a hold of it?
They sell coke in a lot of places in Ghana.
They do? So anybody at all can go and buy?
No, you have to be introduced by somebody, or you have to be a certain kind of person
to be able to buy it. So you got introduced and then you started using it?
More or less.
And what did it do to you or your system whenever you inhaled it or smoked it?
It's like an extreme energy drink.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it makes you very hyper?
Yes.
So who found out about all this and brought you here? Did you find this place yourself?
I didn't find this place myself, but I started looking for this place because it got to a point where I couldn't do anything without some type of drug. I couldn't wake up, literally couldn't wake up without some type of pick-me-up, some type of drug to stimulate myself, yeah.
Did you go to the university?
Yeah.
So you do have a degree. And did you ever try finding a job, or you were more interested in just doing music?
I went to the university. I was studying math. My final year, I preferred drugs, so I quit that.
You quit university for drugs?
Pretty much. And I was selling the drugs. I was getting money off sound bites and jingles I was making for certain people. So I was getting money off organizing parties, stuff like that.
Who were you selling these drugs to? Young people as well?
Yeah, everybody. Okay. Ministers, students, whoever wants to buy.
How were you selling it?
A gram goes for about 200 CDs, $50.
Okay. So let's just say something like this?
Yeah, it's pretty much a gram.
Someone will buy something like this for 200 CDs?
Yes. I can sell like 3 or 4 a day.
And you were keeping all this in your studio?
No, I was keeping it wherever possible. But I try to keep it away from the studio. Unless I'm going to be using it in the studio, I keep it away from my parents' house. I mean, like, keep it away from places that it could get me in trouble for.
So you've been off drugs for 8 months now?
For 4 months. I relapsed 4 months ago.
Wow. Was it because you were done and you went back and then you relapsed, or you were here and you had a way to get it?
I was here. I had some, weird situations going down. I didn't work it out the proper way, and I ended up getting some drugs.
So now you've been doing this for 4 months, off drugs completely. How do you feel?
Great.
What are you going to say to all the young people out there? Because unfortunately, a lot of young people are involved in drugs, whether they are sniffing, smoking, or selling. You've been through it and you're getting yourself out of it. And I believe in you so much. I know that you would. And when you go back into town or, into the normal life, you'll be able to stay